Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Strong Stoic Podcast. I am your host, Brandon Tumblin, and you'd have heard me probably talk about character quite a bit, and not just myself, but all kinds of philosophers, hopefully, meaning who you are. Put simply, that's what character is. But you also hear, likely, others talk about reputation, what people think of you, put simply. This is very common in the business world at work. You hear people talk about the reputation. Don't ruin my reputation. And or we need to uphold our reputation as a company. You might have heard it said like that. So what's up with this? Should we be concerned with reputation at all? Or is character the only thing that really matters? And are people who want a good reputation not good? And can you have both good character and reputation? Where is the line drawn between these two, and where should you really put your energy and focus? Before I get into the topic, allow me to thank my supporters on Patreon. If you would like to join there, you get early access to all the episodes, you get a special personalized gift from myself upon signing up, and you get to join the Patreon community on there. Also, consider joining me on Telegram, where I'm building a community there to basically talk about the podcast episodes. Check me out. It's just a group chat. I assume no one knows what Telegram is because I didn't really know what it was until I started looking for how to form a community. But it's basically just a group chat, and it's got some really great features on there for us to communicate as a community. So that's where I'm building a community. Please check me out there at the Strong Stoic channel and chat. Links are all in the episode descriptions. And also check me out on Medium, where I post all my blog articles, which is basically more formal written ideas based on the podcast episodes. So if you like the podcast episodes and want to read basically what it's about and the references and all that good stuff, check me out on Medium and give me a follow on there. Okay, let's define character and reputation. Character is virtue, put simply, which this is the word that's often used in ancient philosophy, right? You hear virtue, we talk about virtue all the time in Stoicism, right? And basically virtue is having a good character. I like to use the term character because more people understand what this means today as opposed to virtue. Virtue, though it's a great word, it tends to give off a different idea, and it's sort of like, it's what the ancient philosophers use. I mean, they used arete actually, and the translation is not exactly accurate, so I like to use character. I think it's a great way of describing what virtue actually is. And another way we can put it, though, is having good character is being a good person. And that's what virtue is as well. I've stated that several times, that Stoicism is about being a good person. It's about virtue. It's about having a good character. All of these things really mean one and the same thing. And being a good person, of course, is doing what is right. Marcus Aurelius' famous quote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it," right? And that's pretty much Stoicism simply. That's what good character is, put simply. It also includes all of the cardinal virtues. You can imagine, and there is an episode coming up on the cardinal virtues. So I'm going to actually do one dedicated to justice, wisdom, courage, and temperance. But being a good person and having a good character, it includes those things: justice, wisdom, courage, and temperance. In fact, that's what it actually is. It's having the habits of upholding justice, of being wise practically, and knowing thyself, having courage and fortitude, and all things in moderation, and being able to temper thou self, right? That's included in the definition of what it means to be a good person and to have good character. And you may also, another word that might be useful to add to your vocabulary in terms of good character is actually integrity. And integrity is, I would define integrity as doing the right thing even when no one is looking. And you may even, it's interesting when you word it like that, doing the right thing even when no one is looking, because the implication there is that if I'm alone, I'm still going to do the right thing. And what that means is that I don't get away with it just because no one's watching. And religious people may be inclined to say, well, who's watching? It's God, right? And, well, maybe, depending on how you think about God. If you think about it as a man in the clouds, maybe not. But if you think about it as this moral, this objective morality that we have to live up to, or this article of faith that if we do the right thing, if we have integrity, even when nobody is looking, that things are going to work out better for us. I mean, yeah, maybe you could argue that that's actually what God is. So it's not that no one is looking. Something somewhere is looking, because you can't just do whatever you want and get away with it. Okay, now that's character, basically who you are, being a good person, doing the right thing. But what about reputation? Well, reputation is not what you are per se, but rather what people think you are. For example, having a good reputation at work means people think that you are a good worker, that you are honest, and that you're a team player, probably, right? We could even say that having a good reputation means people have the perception that you have a good character. However, reputation and character are not the same thing. Just because people think you have a good character does not mean that you actually do have a good character. Likewise, just because people think that you have a bad character doesn't mean that you actually have a bad character. There's a movie, and full disclaimer here, I haven't seen this movie, so I probably shouldn't be talking about it, but I saw this quote that came up from this movie, so I did a little quick Google search, and this is where the quote came from. But it actually puts this idea of reputation and character very nicely, and I really hope I'm not taking this quote out of context. But the quote is this: reputation is what people think of you, character is what you are. And that's put very simply, and that's really what it is. That's the difference between reputation and character. Now, why should you focus on your character? Because that's my claim, and that's certainly the claim in Stoicism, that you focus on your character. You don't really care too much. Not that you don't care, but you don't focus so much on what people think of you. Rather, you focus on building your character. And really, this question, why you should focus on character as opposed to reputation, it's similar to asking the question, why practice Stoicism, or why try and be a good person? These questions are one and the same thing. After all, focusing on improving your character will lead you to a state of flourishing, right? And that's really why you want to be a good person and practice character. And this is a belief, okay? This is a faith-based statement. The belief that if you improve your character, if you work on becoming a better person, that this will lead you to a state of flourishing. Meaning, if you want to be happy and live a meaningful life, the way to do that is to do the right thing and to be a good person. That's a Stoic belief, and it is absolutely a belief. However, there is lots of evidence, in my opinion, for why this is true. And we can't prove anything. And a lot of things, even in science, there's a lot of things you can't actually prove. You can prove causation, or correlation, and you can see patterns, but you can't definitely prove things in the sense. And there's a short little book on philosophy of science, which is really, really worth reading, which goes over all of this. But we can't actually prove that if you're a good person, things are going to work out better for you. However, look at the evidence like this. Human beings have evolved. And why have we evolved? We evolved as a species because we transitioned from tree primates to ground primates. We moved out of the branches onto the ground. Why did we do that? Well, I don't know why we did that, but here's what ended up happening. Because on the ground there's a lot more predators than there was or is in the trees. I mean, we have snakes in the trees, but generally speaking, tigers, bears, all these things. Some bears can climb trees really fast, actually. That's worth a quick YouTube. But basically, when we go on the ground, the number of predators that we have to deal with goes up drastically. So what we needed to do as a species in order to survive was actually come together and form groups. And we ended up working together in order to survive and fend off predators. You can imagine if a group of people are in the wilderness, what chances are they going to have to survive versus an individual? Well, it's probably going to be a lot, right? Because you have more of them. You have more people to defend if some crazy animal comes and attacks. Therefore, those with good character are more likely to be a part of that group. Because you can imagine, you don't want someone in your group that's not a good person, that's going to backstab you, that doesn't have good character. And I'm sure we've all dealt with this before. I mean, think about this. Have you ever had a project, either in school or at work, where you get a team member who's just lazy and dishonest? You get that one team member who nobody wants. Why do we not want them? Well, because we want our team to succeed and ultimately survive. And we want good team members because that is the essence of what allows us to survive. So having good team players increases the chances of our group, and hence us as an individual, of surviving. If you're in a tribe, you want everyone in that tribe to have good character. And your best chance at surviving is by having good character. Because again, you want to be a good person because you don't want to get kicked out of the group, man, because you're going to get eaten by a lion or something. There's this idea in biology called reciprocity, which is basically exchanging things for mutual benefit. It's more of an evolutionary term, I suppose, but evolutionary biology. Basically, the point is that people exchange things out of mutual benefit. One of those things is, well, that's built on this whole idea of groups, of tribes. So if someone has bad character, they cannot engage in reciprocity for very long. Because, well, if we are going to trade something, if I'm going to give you money and you're going to give me food in return, let's say a simple exchange of resources, and all of a sudden you don't have money on you, or I don't have money on me, so I say, well, you know what, I'll pay you back tomorrow, and then I never pay you back. Well, that's going to work for one day, right? I'm going to get the money, or I'm going to get the food that I want, and I'm going to have lunch that day. But then when I go back the next day and say, hey, can I get another meal? They're going to say no. Of course I'm not going to. Yesterday, you stabbed me in the back because you didn't come back and pay. You don't want to pay more today, so no, I'm not going to give you this meal for free. So bad character, it works for a very short period of time, but it doesn't work in the long term. And so it's very beneficial for us to have positive character because it allows us to actually survive and to build relationships. In sum, believing that having good character will lead you to a state of flourishing, that is an article of faith. It's an article of faith, and it is a huge part of Stoicism, but it's not that there's absolutely no evidence to support that. Right? If you work through the logic of it, it completely makes sense to me why you would want to be a good person, because being a good person allows you to be a part of society, which offers lots of protection and opportunity. Now, does reputation play a role? Reputation, again, is what people think of you, not what you actually are necessarily. Now, clearly, reputation isn't entirely unimportant. After all, if you have good character, but everyone in the tribe thinks that you have bad character and they kick you out and you die, well, that's not good, right? So reputation, therefore, is important. However, what's most important for you as an individual is character. Even though reputation perhaps is ultimately what determines your survivability, character is still much, much more important. And here is why. If you have bad character, the chances are that those around you will figure it out soon enough. You can only backstab and do horrible things for so long before people start noticing. That's the example I gave earlier with, hey, I'll pay you back tomorrow, and then you never pay them back. Yeah, you can get away with that for one, maybe two times, but eventually they're going to say, well, no, I'm not going to give you any food because you didn't hold up your end of the bargain, man. Sorry. So bad character, guess what? It works for a little while, but it catches up with you really fast. Likewise, if you have good character, it's only a matter of time before people start noticing. Now, hopefully people notice before they ostracize you, right? Like if they give you like one chance and then they kick you out, well, that kind of sucks. But even though reputation may be the final item, right? It's like if a group decides that if you have a bad reputation with a particular group, even though your character is bad and they kick you out or they kill you, like, well, okay, that's really bad for you. So the reputation might be ultimately what plays a role there, but it naturally flows from a good character. And so if you focus on your character, your reputation will naturally follow. Now, should we ever prioritize reputation over character? There could be some justification, right, for prioritizing reputation. I mean, what if you're starting a new company and you need to get the word out there about how great you are? Wouldn't it make sense then to go out and try and spread a good reputation, go tell everybody how wonderful you are? Well, no, not at all. And here's why. And this really stems back to why reputation is not nearly as important as character at the end of the day. If you try and improve your reputation directly, it comes at the cost of your character. This is what virtue signaling is. Virtue signaling is, look at me, I am so virtuous, basically saying, give me a better reputation. I am trying to create a better reputation in your mind. So look at me, look how virtuous I am. But the problem with that is it comes at the cost of your character because now you are virtue signaling and that is degrading to your character. So by trying to improve your reputation, a lot of times, or actually all of the time, you degrade your character. And this is why when someone brags about something, you lose a bit of respect for them. If someone says, well, I completed that project on time and under budget, man, I'm the cat's ass. Or even better, not to brag, but I completed that project on time and under budget. Anytime anyone says not to brag, like here comes a brag, right? Now, sometimes this flows naturally in a conversation. I'm not saying that you completed a project on time and under budget is always a bad thing. Like if you're giving a board meeting or if you're presenting something to your company, tell the truth. That's part of character, is telling the truth. If your project was finished on time, say it, but say it matter-of-factly. Everything was completed on May 25th. Not everything was completed on May 25th, 1 week before schedule due. Well, it's all due to my long nights and my dedication and my skills. You're basically virtue signaling. And what's that going to do? Well, it's going to make your reputation fall because they're going to say, oh my God, this guy did a great job on the project, but he's got bad character because he's here bragging about it. The bottom line is that if you focus on improving who you are, you will naturally create a better reputation over time. Whereas if you focus on improving who people think you are, i.e. your reputation, you will naturally produce a worse reputation over time. All that time that you are trying to tell everyone how great you are via virtue signaling is time that you could actually be doing the things that people with good character do. And people with good character do great things. Virtue is something that is practiced. It's not something that you preach. That's why virtue signaling is not the same as virtue. And that's why virtue signaling is actually not virtuous. I'm going to leave you with this quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you haven't read any of Emerson's work, by the way, you should definitely check him out because he's an amazing philosopher. His writing is Old English, so it's kind of hard to understand, but very, very deep and profound ideas. He's very stoic as well. Anyways, Ralph Waldo Emerson said this, and I quote, "What you do speaks so loud that I cannot hear what you say." Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you liked this episode and you like the podcast, consider leaving a rating and review wherever you're listening to this. If you're new here, episodes every Tuesday and Thursday. I do solo episodes. I also do guest episodes. Check me out on Telegram. Check me out on Instagram, Twitter, all the social medias. Not going to bug you guys anymore. Cheers again. Thanks. Until next time.